I had to be smart about this. I had to think. I couldn't go back and spend the night with Ellen and Virginia. They'd know something was wrong, and if I was spotted around Horsehall, rumors might start going around that Hieronymous and I were having marital trouble. That might have been true, but those rumors wouldn't help my relationship any, so I had to avoid the dorms at all costs. The other thing I had to do was to put up a mental shield in my mind to stop Hieronymous from scrying me. Ellen had taught me how to do it so Grabby didn't intervene on some of our more private girl conversations, but I never bothered to do it frequently because I honestly didn't care if he wanted to check in on me now and then. But throwing my previous conversation with them back in my face, as if I had said something wrong, was too much to take, and without really knowing where I was going, I found my feet heading into the gym. As I open the doors and slip inside, I suddenly realize that I'm standing in the gym alone at night. I hadn't been here alone or at night since I was attacked by Damien. I still wasn't comfortable being in here, and I can't help but feel goosebumps rise to the surface of my skin. Maybe it's just because it's cold and I'm only dressed in a t-shirt and shorts that I had on underneath my robes, but I couldn't help the creeping sense of unease around me. This was the room that I had died in. This was the room where Hieronymous almost lost me for good, and suddenly I can't help but feel emboldened by a bitter thought. What if I had died? What would Hieronymous do then? He said he wouldn't be teaching here anymore if I had died, but at the same time, where else would he have gone? Back to England? Would he just hide away in some corner of the world somewhere, depriving himself of social connection so he truly couldn't hurt someone else ever again? And then how he had treated me afterwards, scheduling a severance immediately as if it was to my benefit. He was selfish, that's what it was. He was selfish then, and he was being selfish now, taking whatever frustrations that he had with someone else out on me. It wasn't fair. We had been doing so well together, and now it almost seemed like he wanted to get rid of me. He didn't say he wanted to end the relationship. I was thankful for that, but I didn't have a doubt in my mind that would have been the next match he struck if I had stayed. I let out a cry of frustration, and before I realize it, a spell is leaving my hands. I pause for a moment, watching, waiting, before I see a giant whirlwind of white mist radiating throughout the gym. I close my eyes and flinch as it envelops me, and then, when I move my arm away from my eyes, I see it. Hieronymous, standing in the middle of the gym, with me standing behind him, my arms wrapped around his middle. Tori, you can let go now. I put both my hands over my mouth as I realized I had cast spirit echoes to allow me to see events from the past. But why would I want to see this? Why would I want to watch myself relive what could have been my final moments? I don't have an answer, but I watch anyway. I watch as we fight Damien together. I watch as I teleport around the gym, as I try uselessly to snap Damien's neck, and as I'm thrown back into the wall. I watch as he slices into my arm, and I have to put both hands over my mouth to stop me from screaming. Living through it was one thing, but actually watching my arm become unhinged at the joint was something else. I hadn't concerned myself with it then. The only thing I was worried about was making sure Hieronymous got out of this alive. I'm going to give you the decision. Damien's voice comes across clearly, although his outline was only a pale white sketch. Who dies first? You or him? You know, if you're going to kill me, you can at least give me back my memories first. Does that mean you want to die first? Oh, please, if you think you can. I had thought my voice sounded strong, but I'm almost surprised to hear how pitiful and weak I sound. But I'm not going to die so quickly. Potsdam and the other teachers will be here long before that. Yeah, he asks. Well, we'll see about that. That's when it happens. With the pale white lines of mist, it barely looks like anything at all. I don't look shocked. I don't look surprised. I don't even seem to be looking at Hieronymous, although I distinctly remember trying to smile at him, to tell him I was okay. My eyelids flutter a few times, and I can still hear Damien's laughter in my ears as I watch my head sink into my chest. The scene stays where it is as I walk closer, inspecting the ghostly figments. I walk up to Hieronymous and can see the fear in his eyes, but there's something else too, something I hadn't noticed. He was crying. It was hard to tell, but there was a distinctly ghostly tear on his cheek. Seeing this does strange things to my insides, especially knowing how harsh he was to me earlier, and I have to look away. Instead, I walk up to the statues of Damien and me. Honestly, my injury doesn't look all that gruesome as it probably did in real life. It was still my body, but there was now a gaping chasm where my stomach should have been. Like there had never been anything there at all. I almost couldn't believe that it was real, that had really happened to me, as I let my hands travel across my own stomach. Struck with a sudden idea of morbid curiosity, I reach my hand out into the wisps with one hand as I keep my other hand firmly on my stomach. What did it feel like to almost die? How much pain was I in? How much pain had I managed to endure? The shock and the adrenaline had no doubt quelled most of the sensations, but what had I really survived? I opened my mind up to experience the memory again. I can feel everything invading my senses all at once. I can feel blinding, burning pain in my arm, but that's nothing compared to the excruciating emptiness that was radiating out of my midsection. My heart was beating wildly in my chest, threatening to push itself through my ribcage at any second, and I physically dropped to my knees as I scream, trying to push all of the pain I had invited into myself out through my lungs. For a moment, I couldn't tell if this was really happening to me again, or if I was really going to die. Tori! Tori! I feel magic sweep over me. I try to get up, but the world is dizzy, and I find myself lying with my forehead down on the gym floor as I pant, struggling to catch my breath. Tori, what on earth do you think you are doing? I look up slowly, expecting to see Hieronymous, but happen to just get a glimpse of Professor Potsdam uncloaking herself. I'm sorry, I manage, although I can still barely catch my breath. I'm sorry. I know I'm not supposed to be in the gym after hours. I'm sorry. You're sorry, she echoes with a light scoff. You need to tell me what you were doing here. Immediately. I don't have a ready answer for her, especially when I wasn't quite sure what I was doing here myself. Hieronymous and I had a fight. He didn't want me there, and I didn't know where to go. I couldn't go back to the dorms because I didn't want to start any rumors, so I was just walking, and I just sort of ended up here. Potsdam just stares at me like she doesn't quite believe me. You happen to invite a lot of attention to yourself, Tori. Do you realize this? I can't help but sigh as I shake my head. I don't mean to. Believe me, I don't. I just can't seem to stay out of my own way, I guess. I look up at her suddenly. Hieronymous was in a really foul mood today. He hasn't been like that in a while. Did he happen to hear from his father? Did he get into things with you? I just want to understand what went wrong so I can help him feel better. Potsdam just shakes her head. You care too much for that man, Tori. Sometimes I fear it will spell your own undoing. I huff as I get to my feet. It might as well be. Last time I asked, you laughed me off, but Aloysius told me himself that you were the one who orchestrated the marriage plot. You were the one who forced me to marry Hieronymous. Potsdam stares me down coldly. Is forced the right word, though? Truly? I had set my sights on Minnie until the Christmas assembly. Your relationship developed with him organically. I did you both a favor by choosing you. Be honest, would you rather I had chosen someone else? Of course not, I exclaim, but it's not fair that you tricked Hieronymous into it and wiped his memory of the whole incident. He doesn't remember how he ended up on the floor of the mailroom, and judging by the way his mind has filled in the blanks, you didn't risk a memory shield. You just wiped his mind of it completely. And judging by your tone, you haven't told him anything he doesn't need to know. Potsdam replies simply. By all means, take my advice or don't. But if you tell Hieronymous the truth, do you think he'd continue to stay with you? I pause for a moment, thinking this over. It would take time, I say at length, and he would be upset, and rightfully so, but yes, I think our relationship would survive it. So young and idealistic, Potsdam says with a sigh. Your relationship might be built on love, but it's also built on lies. I'm guessing you haven't told Hieronymous about your little rendezvous with Aloysius last summer, have you? I bite my lip. You see? Which one do you think is going to win out? He told you that he spoke to me? I demand, but Potsdam shakes her head. You're a smart girl, Tori. You can figure it out. I pause for a moment. Honestly, just like with our marriage, if I stopped to think about it, it wasn't all that complicated. He knew where I was going to be because you told him that I was going to visit Virginia's family for a while. You see? Potsdam pushes a sickly sweet smile in my direction. Smart, just like Hieronymous, although the two of you could spell trouble one day if you aren't careful. Trouble, I demand. Look, whatever drama we keep getting pulled into, we want no part of it. Aloysius already made it clear that he wants Hieronymous to take up his seat. That's what he wants. I told him I would talk to Hieronymous and try to convince him to do so if it means he'll stop sticking his nose into Hieronymous's business. I pause as I look at her. But you didn't do this for nothing either. What has he promised you? You don't need to worry about that, Potsdam says with a shake of her head. All you need to do, for now, is remember that I took care of you while you were a student here. I gave you your relationship with Hieronymus. You wouldn't have stood a chance without my meddling. I took care of Damien for you, along with the whole nasty business with your friends. I gave you the right push at every direction to get your relationship to where it is now, and all I'm asking for is when it comes time, you tell Aloysius what a good job I did and how grateful you are for my help. Fine, I say simply. I can do that. But when Aloysius steps down and Hieronymus takes his seat, if he takes his seat, any favors you have with Aloysius won't mean much, will they? I don't need to spell things out for her, and I can see Potsdam's eyes glow in the dim light. We can worry about that at another time. As for now, I suggest you get back to bed. Not quite yet, I say quickly. The specters of the past had faded, but I have to know. I have a favor of my own to ask. I cast spirit echoes to see what happened, but I can't seem to get over my own death. I know there's more that happened here. I want to see it. Your magic isn't strong enough, Potsdam replies simply. True, if this was not an emotionally charged event, you would be able to see beyond your own perception, but what happened to you here is preventing you from seeing past your own limitations. I know, I say softly. That's why I want you to show me. Potsdam lets out a sound that's halfway between a laugh and a snort. You want to see what really happened. Why? Do you not trust Hieronymus to tell you the truth? I keep secrets to protect him, and he keeps secrets to protect me. That's just the way it works. That doesn't mean I shouldn't be entitled to the truth if I seek it. All right, Potsdam says, seeming to make up her mind about something. Just know that once you learn the truth, there's no way you can go back.